Ben Shapiro on Hitler. Hey, I know that guy. Hey, Lex Fridman. I know that guy too. He's that Elon Musk simp who showed up every other tweet that I saw for a couple weeks.
What do you learn from that or teach you about human nature? When you look back at the history of the 20th century, what do you learn from that time?
I mean, there are a bunch of lessons to Hitler taking power. The first thing I think people ought to recognize about Hitler taking power is that the power had been centralized in the government before Hitler took it.
I feel like you should give Lex a chance. I feel he's very open, would love for you to be on there. What do you mean by give? I don't care about his opinions. I only care about, like, if he had a good platform, we had a good convo, and I got, like, attention out of it, then kablamo. I'm not here to like him. I don't know anything about him apart from the, apparently he defended me against Destiny when Destiny came on. I'm sure people in chat have exaggerated the story somewhat. I haven't seen it myself, but from what I've heard, from the Captain Ahab tales that I've seen in chat, Destiny gave him a cursory greeting and then spent 3 hours describing this stupid piece of shit, lefty hypocrite dipshit named Vaush, and then and Lex Fridman bravely defended my honor against him, which I'm sure is fully accurate.
So if you actually look at the history of Nazi Germany,
maybe I should email him. You know how long it's been since I've reached out to any other creator for any reason? It's been like 2.5 years, I think. I'm just not very good at it.
Weimar Republic had effectively collapsed. The power had been centralized in the chancellery and really under Hindenburg for a couple of years before that. And so it was only a matter of time until
I get so frustrated listening to Ben because he's so obviously a person in ways that his contemporaries are not. When you look at Matt Walsh or Dave Rubin or Candace Owens or whatever, they are like just empty vessels of evil. But I've always said this, Ben does come across as an actual human being to me. I do think he's smart, and I do think he believes a lot of what he says, maybe not all of it. This isn't, I'm not congratulating him on being a good person, but he is a person, which is more than can be said with a lot of the people that he works with.
Someone who was bad grabbed the power. And so the struggle between the Reds and the Browns in Nazism, in pre-Nazi Germany, led to this kind of up-spiraling of radical sentiment that allowed Hitler in through the front door, not through the back door. Right, he was elected.
So you think communists could have also taken power?
I mean, there's no question communists could have taken power. They were a serious force in pre-Nazi Germany.
Do you think there was an...
No. The reason why the Nazis were able to take power is because Hindenburg and the conservative cabinet wanted to take advantage of their populist credentials while offering them institutional support. It was the belief of Hindenburg that Hitler would be more moderate once he was given power, which obviously didn't work out. The conservative movement essentially folded and allowed themselves to be incorporated into the Nazi party, like functionally. The same couldn't really happen with the communists. The closest allegory you could get would have been if the Social Democrats had allowed themselves to fold and become a part of the communists. But hey, remember what killed Rosa Luxemburg? The Social Democrats very recently showed that they were not actually willing to go along with any kind of power grab from the communists. So no, I don't think it's possible.
Underlying current that would have led to an atrocity if the communists had taken power.
Wouldn't have been quite the same atrocity, but obviously the communists in Soviet Russia at exactly this time were committing the Holodomor.
Yeah.
Right. So it was there were very few good guys.
The idea that the Holodomor could have been like replicated in Germany, like well, the Nazi Germans did the Holocaust, but the communist Germans would have done the in Germany famine.
In terms of good parties, the moderate parties were being dragged by the radicals into alliance with them to prevent the worst case scenario from the other guy, right? So if you look at, I'm sort of fascinated by the history of this period because it really does speak to how does a democracy break down. I mean, the 20s Weimar Republic was a very liberal democracy. How does a liberal democracy break down into complete fascism and then into genocide? And there's a character who was very prominent in the history of that time named Franz von Papen, who was actually
who had a pointy hat,
second to last chancellor of the Republic before Hitler. So he was the chancellor, and then he handed over to Schleicher, and then Schleicher ended up collapsing, and that ended up handing power over to Hitler. It was Papen who had stumped for Hitler to become chancellor. Papen was a Catholic Democrat. He didn't like Hitler. He thought that Hitler was a radical and a nut job, but he also thought that Hitler, being a buffoon as he saw it, was going to essentially be usable by
Okay, no, this is okay.
the right forces in order to prevent the communists from taking power, maybe in order to restore some sort of legitimacy to the regime, because he was
Maybe a lesson to be learned here that fears of communist takeover might sometimes lead slightly more moderate conservatives to front Nazis in ways that end up blowing back.
popular in order for Papen to retain power himself. And then immediately after Hitler taking power, Hitler basically kills all of Papen's friends. Papen, out of quote unquote loyalty, stays on. He ends up helping the Anschluss in Austria. All this stuff is really interesting, mainly because what it speaks to is the great lie we tell ourselves is that people who are evil are not like us. They're a class apart. People who do evil things, people who support.
It's so frustrating because I'm so used to conservatives being wrong about everything 100% of the time. A lot of the stuff that he's saying here is true. What he's about to say right now is true. Yeah.
Evil people, they're not like us. And that's an easy call. Everybody in history who has sinned is a person who's very different from me. Robert George, the philosopher over at Princeton, he's fond of doing a sort of thought experiment in his classes where he asks people to raise their hand if they had lived in Alabama in 1861. How many of you would be abolitionists? And everybody raises their hand. And he says, of course, that's not true. Of course, that's not true. The best protection against evil is recognizing that it lies in every human heart and the possibility that it takes you over. And so you have to be very cautious in how you approach.
God, man. This is philosophy 101 though. Okay, for conservative, giving a good philosophy 101 take is like the Herculean apex of intellectualism for their movement. This is like they are reaching to the stars by the standards of their ideology. Brain dead take. No, this is an objectively correct take. This isn't brain dead. You are brain dead for calling this brain dead. This is a correct take. The idea is what he's arguing against right now is essentialism. He's saying that evil and good whatever, all these behaviors aren't baked into how people are. They are things that you can be shaped into. So you have to be careful about what shapes you. Yeah, that's the point being made, and it's true. And he is very much a victim of that system, and a victimizer to others.
These issues and the back and forth of politics, the sort of bipolarity of politics, the polarization in politics might be a better way to put it, makes it very easy to kind of fall into the rock'em sock'em robots that eventually could theoretically allow you to support somebody who's truly frightening and hideous in order to stop somebody who you think is more frightening and hideous. And you see this kind of language, by the way, now.
Very interesting, considering the fact that Ben Shapiro called Trump supporters anti-Semites, was vocally an anti-Trumper all throughout the 2016 Republican primaries, compared them at points to Nazis with their anti-Semitism, and now he supports Trump and often supports stuff the conservative movement does, in part because he, along with his contemporaries, fearmonger over the left's takeover of America. I feel like this is what I mean by like canary in the coal mine. I wonder how aware he is, because he's not a dumb guy. I wonder how aware he is.
Now predominating almost all over the Western world, right? My political enemy is an enemy of democracy. My political enemy is going to end the republic. My political enemy is going to be the person who
Trump literally said suspend the Constitution, and DeSantis is literally saying you should be able to convict people with the death sentence off of just 8 out of 12 jurors voting guilty.
Destroys the country we live in, and so that person has to be stopped by any means necessary, and that's dangerous stuff.
So the communists had to be stopped in Nazi Germany, and so they're the devil, and so any useful buffoon, as long as they're effective against the communists, would do. Do you ever wonder, because the people that are participating in evil may not understand that they're doing evil, do you ever sit back, in the quiet of your own mind and think, am I participating in evil?
I mean, so my business partner and I, one of our favorite memes is there's a British comedy show, the name escapes me, of these two guys who are members of the SS, and they're dressed in the SS uniforms and the black uniforms with the skulls on them, and they're saying to each other. One says to the other guy, you notice like the British, the symbol is something is something nice, and it's like an eagle, and but it's a skull and crossbones. You see the Americans, you see their blue uniforms, they're very nice and pretty. Ours are jet black. Are we the baddies? And
This is one of the things that makes me like Ben, unironically. It's that I genuinely believe that he finds that tittle like funny and elating in a kind of like dorky, nerdy, late millennial kind of way. You know what I mean?
that's it. And the truth is, we look back at the Nazis and we say, well, of course they were the baddies. They wore black uniforms and they had jackboots and they had this and that. And of course they were the bad guys. But evil rarely presents its face so clearly. So yeah, I mean, I think.
Does he know? Wait, hold on. Wait, this entire bit, this whole conversation right here is literally.
I think that you have to constantly be thinking along those lines, and hopefully you try to avoid it. You can only do the best that a human being can do. But yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. I would say that I spend an inordinate amount of time reflecting on whether I'm doing the right thing. And I may not always do the right thing. I'm sure a lot of people think that I'm doing the wrong thing on a daily basis. But it's definitely a question that has to enter your mind as a historically aware and hopefully morally decent person.
Do you think you're mentally strong enough?
I'm gonna be honest, guys. I consider the morality of my behavior, but I don't ever wonder, am I the evil one? I feel like my positions are pretty. I'm like, it's like there are like the people on their side are like, yeah, all of our enemies are degenerate groomers. Their parents need to be arrested. They need to be killed. I like unambiguous support. Like the right was like laughing after that gay club shooting. And then on my side, it's like, okay, well, I think people should be able to live free lives they want. I want like rights for workers. I'm like, no, I don't actually wonder that often if I'm evil. Like, the moral questions are interesting, and there's usually ways to do things better than you already are. I don't often wonder like, am I the evil? Now we have insane people too. Yeah, there are insane people on the left, but I don't think I'm one of them. I think that my positions are pretty straightforwardly ethically justifiable under a at least intersubjective ethical framework. I think if you could intersubjectively, and I mean that globally, this is a big intersubjective. If I could piece that together, like people's basic axiomatic values, I feel like a lot of shit that I believe in is pretty straightforward. What does intersubjectively mean? Lol, I'm dumb. You're not dumb for not knowing what that means. Can we intersubjectively ameliorate? See, Amonty814 also doesn't know what it means, but they're choosing to make fun of me for it rather than asking like a normal, nice, kind, smart person. So if something, you have subjective and objective. Intersubjective is when you're making the argument that it's subjective, but operates objectively within a given set of parameters or frameworks. The idea being like you can't say that pizza is the best food objectively, because that's obviously a matter of opinion. But if you had a group of friends and all 10 of them thought pizza was their best food, you could say intersubjectively in this group, pizza is the best food. You could also say it subjectively, but you could go one step further and go, it's intersubjectively the case, in the sense that this is like, it's objective within the criteria here. Like, as long as we're within our friend group, yeah. You could believe anything like that? Well, yes, intersubjectively, like everything can be intersubjectively true if you like narrow the inter down to the smallest possible group of one. That's why I said the biggest inter, like globally intersubjectively. I don't believe in objective morality. So why say it? Because I don't believe in objective morality. That's why I said intersubjectively world over.
If you realize that you're on the wrong side of history, to switch sides. Very few people in history seem to be strong enough to do that.
I mean, I think that the answer, I hope, would be yes. You never know until the time comes and you have to do it. I will say that having heterodox opinions in a wide variety of areas is something that I have done before. I'm the only person I've ever heard of.
A salient point. Thanks for ameliorating the conclusion. Thank you. Happy to alleviate the discombobulation of the cognations of the chat arenas.
In public life, who actually has a list on their website of all the dumb, stupid things I've ever said. So where I go through and I either say this is why I still believe this, or this is why what I said was terrible and stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that list will get a lot longer.
Yeah, look forward to new additions to that.
Yeah,
list.
exactly.
Yeah, it actually is a.
I think he knows. a little bit. Man, I would enjoy talking to Ben, but I would really enjoy talking to Ben away from a camera. If I could like if we if we were both at like the Daily Wire HQ or something and there was a power outage while we were in an elevator together and I just had to like sit there next to him for like 3 hours or something, I feel like I could have a really good conversation with him. Or at least I could figure out some stuff about him. I don't know. But that's never going to happen, of course. There's stuff I wonder about. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be. I can figure out people like sorry, not Ben Shapiro, like Matt Walsh or Candace Owens or whatever. I think it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We have to keep an eye on Ben Shapiro with time because I really want to know how that all pans out.